I unlocked the apartment door just before 6 p.m. The crisp December air rushed in, carrying the scent of the Ohio River breeze and the faint aroma of pine from a neighbor's Christmas tree. But the instant I stepped inside, a hollow chill swept through me, colder than any winter wind. No familiar rustling, no honey-colored blur racing toward me like usual, no soft paw taps on the hardwood, or that gentle whine that always meant, "Welcome home." I called softly, "Luna?" Nothing but silence. Not the soothing kind that settles at night, but the unnatural emptiness you feel when someone has deliberately erased a presence. I froze at the doorway, keys still tangled in my fingers. My eyes scanned the living room. Luna's bed that used to sit by the window, gone. The rubber-boned toy I washed just yesterday, nowhere in sight. Even the faint scratch marks on the coffee table leg, the ones I always meant to fix but never did, vanished. It was as if someone had scrubbed every trace of her from this place. I moved slowly, as if sleepwalking. I opened every door, pulled back every curtain, checked under the couch, inside the kitchen cabinets. Pointless. Luna never played hide-and-seek. She was the kind of dog who stayed in place, her eyes lighting up when I came home, always ready to do her job. She was my teammate, the tether that kept me from slipping into the abyss every time the nightmares hit, the only one who understood the silence in my head I couldn't put into words. I grabbed my phone, trying to keep my hands from shaking. A message popped up on the screen from my mom. "When you get home, stop by. We need to talk." Just 8 words, cold, direct, not one mention of Luna. My parents' house was less than 15 miles away, but every mile stretched endlessly. I gripped the wheel tightly, forcing myself not to spiral. After 13 years working as a benefits coordinator for the state health department, I'd learned how to stay calm. But this felt different. This was personal, deeply. The house I grew up in looked like a photograph left out in the sun too long. Porch lights still yellow, geranium pots still overwatered, Dad's old pickup still parked exactly where it always had been. Everything unchanged, except for the way I felt. Mom opened the door before I could knock. She stood there, arms crossed, eyes devoid of anything except mild expectation. "You're here." "Where's Luna?" I asked immediately, not stepping inside. She sighed. "We took her to the shelter. Dogs are too expensive, you know that. That money should go to more practical things." It hit like a punch to the stomach. My heart thudded hard, breath shallow. I'll ask again. "Where is Luna?" "At the city shelter. They said she was sweet. She'll find a new home quickly." Mom's tone was detached, as if she were informing me she rearranged the furniture. I kept my voice level. "Why didn't you ask me first? Why do this while I was out of town?" "You've spent too much on her, Allison. Special food, vet bills, those overpriced puzzle toys. Meanwhile, your dad needs blood pressure meds and the car's about to die. The electric bill doubled this month." I didn't reply. I stepped back from the porch, feeling the ground beneath me split into jagged pieces. I had only left Luna home alone for 2 days on a business trip. I never imagined my own family would make that kind of decision. About the one thing that mattered most, I drove home in complete silence. No music, no phone, just one question echoing in my mind like an alarm bell. Who do they think they are, deciding for me what Luna meant? But in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I was going to get Luna back, no matter what it cost. I returned to my parents' house like a shadow, sitting on the old leather armchair in the living room, the same spot where I learned to play piano at 12. The same corner where I curled up during those early panic attacks before anyone realized it was PTSD. My father sat not far away, eyes glued to the sports broadcast, not even glancing at me. Mom made tea like it was just another ordinary afternoon. "Why didn't you call me?" I asked, voice low and controlled. "One phone call, one text." She placed the teacup on the table, not answering right away. Sitting across from me, she rubbed her palms together as if weighing her words. "Allison, you have to understand, none of this was out of spite. Your dad needs new heart medication. Insurance won't cover it. This month's utilities came close to $1,000, and we just can't live under that kind of financial pressure anymore. Keeping Luna..." You know how expensive that is. I looked at her, searching for a trace of remorse in her eyes, but all I saw was cold logic and numbers. You know Luna isn't just a regular pet. You saw her stop one of my panic attacks at the grocery store, remember? She shook her head slightly. Allison, we can't afford to live like that forever. You've always been too lenient with money. Organic dog food, imported eardrops, special training. Those aren't essentials. Luna is medical equipment, I said, each word deliberate, not something you cut like a cable subscription. My dad finally spoke, still not looking away from the screen. Don't make this into a drama. Your mom did what she had to do to keep us afloat. I turned to him. Us? All of us, except me? Silence. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app. So how much do you think I spend each month on Luna? Mom frowned. You? Buy that fancy food? Maybe around $70 a month? Then vet stuff, vaccines, those mind games, I guess around 1,000 a year? Close. Anything else? She blinked. What else? For example, nearly $900 to fix your car last year, $200 monthly for dad's medication, $1,500 for the property tax the year before, and let's not forget all the utility, cable, and internet bills you send to me just to float you every month. What do you think that adds up to? She said nothing, her hands clenched tighter. In total, I said evenly, almost $58,000 over 3 years. No one spoke, only the hum of a commercial on the TV and the soft clink of a cooling teacup filled the room. Mom stood, voice lowered. Allison, you know I didn't mean to hurt you. We didn't realize how much she mattered to you. I met her eyes. Luna has certification from the Indiana State Service Dog Academy, registration from the Department of Disability Services, a complete medical file confirming my PTSD diagnosis after what happened at the hospital in 2019. You knew how badly I struggled with insomnia. I told you everything, and still, you called her just a dog. She tried to smile, awkward and crooked. Well, it's not exactly medical equipment, is it? I gave a small laugh, not from humor, but from exhaustion. Under federal law, Luna is classified as durable medical equipment, like a wheelchair or a breathing machine. You had no right to give her away. What you did broke the law. You'd sue your own mother? Her eyes showed panic for the first time. We're family. Did you remember that when you signed away Luna at the shelter? I asked, pulling up the text she sent. Or did you just see an expense that needed cutting? My dad turned off the TV. This time, he looked at me. Allison, don't turn this into a tragedy. Think practically. I am thinking, I said, standing. Very practically, and that's why I'm going to fix this. Not for you, not for Dad. For Luna. And for myself. I left without saying goodbye, never looking back. When the car door closed behind me, I took a deep breath and pulled up the number for City Animal Shelter. If there was even a sliver of hope, I had to bring Luna back. Not out of habit, out of survival. Back at my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. Not because I needed the darkness to calm down, but because I needed silence to sort through the chaos in my head. The white walls now felt unbearably empty. Every space Luna used to occupy like invisible cracks, slicing through my mind. I sat down at my desk, sweat still clinging to my back from the confrontation with my parents. There was no room for tears, no time for fragility. From this moment on, everything needed to be handled the way I did case files at the State Health Benefits Office. Logically, with evidence, without emotion. I opened a small safe in my wooden cabinet. Inside was Luna's entire file, every document I had carefully preserved since the day I brought her home from Canine Hope Academy in Bloomington. I pulled out the packet, each section clearly labeled: Service Training and Certification, ADA Registration, Americans with Disabilities Act, Medical Evaluation and PTSD Diagnosis. Training invoice $25,120. Routine veterinary receipts. Legal handler certification. Allison R. Myers. Each document was a piece of the truth my parents had chosen to ignore. They thought they could throw Luna away like an overpriced toy. Then they were about to learn they had just discarded federally protected medical equipment. I opened my laptop, launched my notes app, and began creating a new file. Proof of ownership and legal function of service dog Luna. Mom's text, "Come by the house, we need to talk." Verbatim quote from our conversation, "She's just a dog, too expensive." Animal shelter name provided by Mom, Oakland County Animal Intake Center. Receipts detailing financial assistance for my parents' medical costs over the past 2 years. Opened my online banking portal. In 10 minutes, I identified over 20 emergency transactions, heart medication for Dad, tow truck charges for Mom, prepaid water bills, even instances when Trevor, my cousin, borrowed my credit card for a few days and conveniently forgot to pay me back. I had never seen it as debt. But today was different. I called the county's animal intake center. "Hi, this is Allison Myers. I need to verify a dog named Luna, a golden retriever mix, may have been brought to your facility today." The operator replied, "One moment, let me check the intake records." A long pause, then she returned. "Yes, she's here. Arrived at 12 p.m. A middle-aged couple surrendered her, citing financial hardship." "Luna's a certified service dog," I said, my voice calm but firm. "They had no legal right to surrender her. I have full documentation and will be bringing it this afternoon." "We'll need to review the paperwork," she replied, "but if everything checks out, she'll be returned to her legal handler." I hung up. My hands were still cold, but something was stirring inside me. Not rage, but the clarity of someone who has grown used to having their boundaries dismissed. I printed every necessary document, compiled them into a thick folder, sealed in a plastic envelope. Then I opened another folder on my desktop, the one I had always labeled simply, "If I ever have to prove it." Inside were dozens of PDFs, Dad's prescription history from Walgreens, Mom's car repair invoice, signed by me, bank documents showing linked sub-accounts, personal financial statements from the past 24 months. I never imagined I'd need to use it, but professional instinct had always told me to document everything, not for defense, but to ensure I could never be invalidated. It was 8 p.m. I grabbed my coat, the folder in hand, and stepped outside. The Michigan sky was darkening, light snow beginning to fall. Each step down the apartment hallway echoed like a reminder. This isn't just about a dog, it's about the right to live on my terms, with legal protection and the respect I deserve for needs no one else can see. That night, after submitting all the paperwork to reclaim Luna, I sat in my cold apartment, hand still resting on the mouse, eyes fixed on a thick bank statement filled with transactions I used to brush off as no big deal. But every line on the screen laid bare the truth. I had been funding nearly every aspect of my parents' lives for the past 2 years, and their way of saying thank you was to take away the one thing that kept me functional. I opened my banking app. Each time I tapped an automatic payment, the memory played along with it. $217.89 for Dad's blood pressure medication from Pine Hill Pharmacy. $845 for the water heater repair last winter when Mom called, sobbing about the freezing cold. $1,327.64 for the property tax bill they forgot, on the exact day I was in Chicago for a project meeting. I had never kept a tally. I did it because I thought I was the only one capable of helping, because we were family. But today I had no reason left to continue. One by one, I canceled each transaction. Joint account, permanently closed. Supplemental credit card in Mom's name, instantly terminated. Monthly auto transfer on the 15th, canceled. Utility payments through the Michigan State portal, disconnected. In under 10 minutes, every financial pipeline feeding their household dried up, just as easily as they had decided to erase Luna's presence. I never imagined cutting off support would bring such relief. Not because I resented the money, but because for the first time in years, I dared to put myself first. My phone buzzed around 9 p.m. Mom lit up the screen. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, Dad, then Trevor, my cousin, who never called unless he needed something. I set my phone to silent and placed it face down on the table. I knew they had realized what was happening, and I knew the storm was coming. The next morning, just as I was zipping up my coat to head to the shelter and bring Luna home, a text from Mom lit up my screen. Dad's pharmacy account was declined. Did you cut the transfer? I didn't respond. I simply added a note to my documentation file. 9:07 a.m. Confirmation they've started to feel the consequences. A second message followed almost instantly. Allison, don't do this. This is critical medication, not something that can wait. Then, the final 3 words. We're family. And I froze. It took several seconds before I realized I was gripping my phone so tightly, my knuckles were turning white. I typed back only one line. Family doesn't sacrifice their child's health to save a few bucks. Less than 5 minutes later, Dad called. I answered not because I wanted to hear what he had to say, but because I needed to hear whether he was still the father I once trusted, or merely another extension of my mother's indifference. Allison, he began, his voice hoarse and tired. The doctor says this week's meds aren't covered. Can you help just this once? Your mom will figure it out by next week. I cut in. I can't, and I won't. Dead silence on the line. You're mad about the dog, but does it really have to come to this? The whole family suffering? Dad, I said, my voice steady but firm, Luna is a $25,000 medical service dog, federally recognized. She's the only reason I sleep through the night, hold a job, and function without breaking. You didn't ask, you didn't investigate, you just threw her away like trash. We didn't know, he repeated. If we had, we wouldn't have. But you didn't ask, I interrupted. And now, I'm not asking either. I'm just doing what needs to be done, like Mom always says. He said nothing more, just a long, weary sigh before hanging up. I left the apartment, documents still in my bag, more resolute than ever. I was going to get Luna back, but not just to restore my mental stability, to prove something deeper. I was no longer the daughter who yielded and forgave without limits. The sky was overcast when I arrived at the Oakland County Animal Intake Center. Only a few cars dotted the parking lot, mostly staff. I stepped into the main lobby, holding my folder close to my chest. My hand trembled slightly, but my breathing stayed steady. I wasn't afraid of failing. I just knew that every minute Luna spent here added another layer of unnecessary harm. At the front desk sat a red-hailed woman with a name tag that read, Tammy. She offered a polite, robotic smile. How can I help you today? I'm here to reclaim my dog. Her name's Luna. Golden Retriever mix. She was brought in yesterday. Tammy typed a few keys and glanced at her screen. Yes, Luna's currently in the health observation intake area. The person who surrendered her listed financial hardship as the reason. I'm her legal owner, I said, handing her my folder. Luna is a certified service animal, and she can't not be surrendered or transferred by anyone other than her registered handler. All the paperwork is here. Tammy hesitated. She flipped through a few pages, and her expression shifted from neutral to visibly concerned. Can you wait a moment? I'll call my supervisor. Minutes later, a middle-aged woman in a blue shirt with a name tag that read, Deborah, supervisor, walked out from a back hallway. She looked at me, then at the documents Tammy was holding. I'm Deborah, the center supervisor. We've reviewed your documents. It seems this isn't a typical case. I agree, I said, handing her a copy of the ADA documentation. Luna is not a pet. She's a federally protected medical device. Trained service animal, valued at $25,000. I'm her sole legal handler. Deborah quietly read over a few lines before lifting her eyes, now serious. Can you provide proof of registration and ownership? I handed over a copy of the training agreement and my handler certification from Canine Hope, Luna's training organization. My name's on all of it. Every invoice is under Allison R. Mayers, and here's my medical verification prescription for a service animal following a PTSD diagnosis. Everything is legal and current. Deborah gave a slow nod. I'll need to verify some of this, but if it checks out, we have no grounds to retain Luna. I sat down in the waiting area, clutching my backpack, eyes locked on the steel door to the intake kennels. About 30 minutes later, the door swung open. A young staff member walked out with Luna, her Ocean Mew leash, the one I had picked during her first week of training, still clipped to her collar. Luna saw me, and in an instant the world erupted in a low, joyful growl. She charged forward, dragging the staffer behind her, body trembling, soft whimpers escaping her throat, tail wagging so wildly it was like she was shouting, "I'm here! I'm still here!" I knelt and wrapped my arms around her. Her fur was warm, silky, achingly familiar. She nuzzled into me, sniffing every inch of my face like she was checking if I'd been hurt. "Hey, girl," I whispered. "I came to bring you home." Deborah stood a few steps away, eyes glassy. "I'm sorry for what happened," she said gently. The person who brought her in seemed convincing, appeared to care. "We didn't know she was a registered medical device." "I understand," I replied, voice calm but firm. "They're good at manipulation. Sympathy is their favorite weapon. But they had no right." I signed the official release confirming Luna was returned to her legal handler, then led her to the car. She climbed onto the passenger seat and rested her head on my lap, her eyes half closed in contentment. As I started the engine, a long-lost feeling swept over me. For the first time in days, I wasn't fighting alone. We merged onto the highway, snow beginning to fall. Luna poked her head out the window, wind tossing her golden fur. I glanced at her, smiling softly. "We're going home?" 6 days after I brought Luna home, the phone wouldn't stop ringing, first familiar numbers, then unknown ones from Jackson, Michigan, where my parents lived. I didn't answer. I didn't reply to messages. I had already said everything that needed saying. And what they needed to understand wasn't something I could re-teach like a moral lesson. The following Monday, while I was taking Luna for a routine checkup at the vet clinic in Auburn Hills, an email popped up from Michigan Credit Union. Subject line: co-signer action required. Severe delinquency on mortgage loan 18463J. I read it 3 times, then dug into my hard drive for the file. The loan was in my parents' name, but I had co-signed in 2020, back when Dad's hours were cut and Mom's credit was too weak. I hadn't thought too far ahead. Back then, it was simple. My family needs help saving the house. Now the house was on the brink of foreclosure, and the bank was demanding nearly $6,800 in overdue payments, a chunk of the total debt nearing $94,000. Right then, my phone rang again. I wasn't planning to pick up until I saw the name, Kyle, my brother. Kyle was the only one I ever believed might still be salvageable. Unemployed more often than not, impulsive with money, but he'd never openly attacked me. Still, he lived like my wallet was a bottomless faucet, always flowing, as long as he turned the knob just right. "Ellison," he rushed out the second I picked up, his voice a mixture of urgency and guilt. "Just listen a sec. Mom said you froze Dad's medication account. The pharmacy sent a rejection notice. Her car broke down on the freeway, no one's answering their calls, the house is about to be foreclosed." I said nothing. I listened to Luna's soft breathing beside me, her eyes fixed on mine as if reading the conflict building inside me. "You've got to help them, Ellison," Kyle pressed, now desperate. "I moved back in to help, but I can't cover everything. Mom's barely holding it together." I closed my eyes. In my mind, I saw my mother, preaching family above all while signing paperwork to dump Luna without even asking. "Kyle," I said calmly, "do you know what Luna is?" "The dog Mom dropped off?" "No." My grip tightened on the wheel. "Luna is not a dog. She's a medical device, trained to manage my PTSD. She's what lets me work, function, not fall apart." Silence on the other end. "They decided she wasn't important," I continued. "But they didn't just discard a dog, Kyle. They discarded my ability to live a normal life. They took away the one thing keeping me whole." I didn't know it was that serious," he murmured. Mom said you were just spoiling her too much. I scoffed. Mom also said I was wasting money helping the family. Now she's about to lose the house because she assumed I was an ATM with legs. You can't just abandon them, Kyle hissed. They're still your parents. I took a deep breath. They are. And they're also the people who crossed every boundary, who took the most critical thing from me. If they did it once, they'll do it again. I won't re-enter that cycle. So you're letting them lose the house? He shot back, voice sharp now. No, I said. I'm just done paying the price for decisions they made on their own. I warned them, I explained, they ignored it. This is family, Allison, not some business where you can just pull funding and walk away. Exactly, it's family, I said, which means I expect it at the very least to be treated like a person, not some bottomless charity fund. I ended the call before he could respond. In that moment, I knew with certainty. They didn't regret losing Luna. They didn't feel remorse for stripping away my autonomy. They regretted that this time, the consequence was financial. The one thing they thought I'd always cover. I stroked Luna's head and whispered aloud for both of us. Sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to let go of what you once thought you couldn't live without. Saturday morning, while walking Luna around the park behind my apartment complex, my phone buzzed for the 4th time that day. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. A part of me already knew they wouldn't stop. Not after the bank sent the final foreclosure notice. Not after they discovered my name was no longer listed as the backup payer. I picked up, I didn't speak. A middle-aged man's voice came through, cautious and professional. This is Allison Myers. My name is Greg Walsh. I'm the legal representative authorized by Mr. and Mrs. Myers to handle their personal bankruptcy filing. I stopped walking, kept my voice steady. I'm listening. I understand things are tense. Your family's facing financial hardship. They've proposed a soft support agreement, essentially a long-term repayment arrangement to prevent losing the house entirely. They gave a faint, cold laugh. And how exactly am I involved in that agreement? You've served as their primary financial guarantor for over 2 years. Based on your prior support, the bank is considering you as a candidate to settle the debt, or at least contribute enough to extend the repayment window. I used to be their checkbook, not a pawn willing to sell out her dignity for silence. He hesitated. Sorry? You don't need to be sorry, I replied calmly. But you do need to understand, I'm not a fallback fund for people who violated my boundaries. They've returned Luna. They didn't return her, I cut him off. I reclaimed her. Through paperwork, legal channels, and 6 hours of tracking, proof, and filings. For something that should never have been taken. That wasn't repentance. That was the consequence of ignoring both law and decency. We could renegotiate if you feel the terms are more appropriate. I don't renegotiate with people who stole my medical device without asking. There's no appropriate condition for betrayal. A long silence. Are you sure you're willing to let your parents fall into complete bankruptcy? As sure as they were that I'd never dare say no, now they know better. I hung up. That afternoon, Kyle came to my door. I saw him through the curtain, worn-out jacket, sleep-deprived eyes, holding a paper bag. I didn't open the door. Luna barked softly, then stood between me and the entryway, as if she too understood there was nothing left I needed to hear. I left the bag, then texted, I'm sorry. Mama's wrong, Dad too, and me. But they're really desperate. You don't have to give money, just say you forgive them. That's all. I read it, I didn't reply. That night, I opened the paper bag. Inside was a handwritten letter. My mother's writing, shaky, messy, full of apologies, but also full of familiar phrases like, we didn't think it was that serious, just a rushed decision in hard times, and you could have endured it a little longer. I folded the letter, not because I hadn't forgiven, but because I understood. They hadn't truly taken responsibility. They regretted the outcome, not the choice. The next day, I got another message. If you need it, we'll sign any documents releasing you from the debts. Just please help stop the foreclosure. I didn't respond. I opened my laptop and typed an email to the bank's legal representative. Confirmation. As of date, I hold no financial obligation, support, or guarantee concerning Mr. and Mrs. Myers, including loan 18463J. All responsibility lies with the primary borrowers. I decline all renegotiation or related arrangements. I hit send. My hands didn't shake. Luna lay at my feet, her head resting gently against my leg. Her eyes looked up, not sad, just waiting. "We're okay now," I whispered, "because this time, no one else gets to decide for me." Somewhere across the city, they might be crying, yelling, scrambling to win back the help they once took for granted. But what I reclaimed wasn't just Luna. It was my boundary, my freedom, my self-respect. And that, no apology can ever buy back. One late autumn afternoon, while I was organizing documents at my new office in downtown Bloomfield Hills, the receptionist called to say someone was waiting in the lobby. An older woman, she says, "She's your mother." I didn't ask for more. I just stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked down. I knew she'd come, eventually, not because she needed me, but because she could no longer deny I had stepped out of the responsible one role they had assigned me for years. Mom sat on a gray-cushioned chair, clutching a worn handbag, streaks of silver threading through her hair. When she saw me, she jumped up. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't dare cry. "Allison, Allison," her voice was barely a whisper. I know I can't change the past, but I still wanted to say, I'm sorry." I stood still, not angry, not moved, just silently watching the woman who once called taking Luna away financially practical. "I truly didn't understand at the time," she continued. "I thought she was just a dog. I didn't see what she meant to you. To me, Luna was just a budget expense. But now, I understand." I nodded slowly. Luna wasn't a pet. She was the only medical device that kept me alive without panic attacks tearing me apart. Mom lowered her head. "I hurt you, more than I ever realized, and I accept every consequence. The house is gone. Your father has no insurance. Trevor left. I'm just a name on a short-term lease with no family left. But I'm not here to ask for help. I'm here to say, I was wrong." I asked nothing, offered no comfort. She needed to face the truth. I needed to hold the boundaries I had built from tears, trauma, and grit. After a long silence, I said one thing, calmly, like reading from a dictionary. "I'm not angry anymore, but I haven't forgotten. Forgiveness doesn't mean we start over. It means I've accepted that you chose not to be part of my journey anymore." She trembled, but didn't protest. Life afterward felt unusually peaceful. No more surprise messages, no more redirected bills from debts I never signed for. I started a new job in health insurance, a place where your value was measured by your competence, not how much you could endure. I bought a small home in Birmingham with a backyard wide enough for Luna to run each morning. She still curled at my feet every night, her head resting on my thigh while I worked, watching my face like a seasoned therapist. Once, during a seminar at the University of Michigan on disability rights, I shared my story. No tears, no rage, just facts, documentation, and a simple message. If they don't respect what keeps you alive, they're not worth sacrificing your peace for. Many came to speak with me afterward. Some were law students, others were parents who once thought like my mother. One young woman hugged me and said, "Because of you, I finally said no when my brother asked for money a 10th time." I just smiled. Soft, like Luna's morning tail wag. Quiet but weighty. My mother never showed up again, but months later, I received a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo. She was sitting in a new kitchen, holding an old cat, smiling, her expression surprisingly serene. Attached was a small note, written in blue ink. "It's not a dog, it doesn't heal, but at least it doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself to exist. Thank you for teaching me that." I folded the letter, didn't cry, just leaned down to pet Luna and whispered, "She's learning to live again, and We've learned how never to let anyone take our lives away again. And that was enough. No reunion, no fairy tale ending, just clear boundaries and a new path, quiet, steady, untouched. Allison's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from betrayal, but from realizing your own family belittled the hurt you tried so hard to hide. Her fight to reclaim Luna wasn't just about a dog. It was about reclaiming her right to exist and be respected. In real life, if you've ever been pressured to sacrifice yourself for family, remember, real love never asks you to lose who you are. You have the right to say no, and you don't owe anyone an apology for it. What do you think about Allison's choice? Was she too cold or absolutely right to set that boundary? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family and life.